All right, good afternoon. What's poppin'? It's your boy Big Rich, Queens, New York City, where we get busy. Time for another mob spotlight, and we're going to stay north of the border with our Canadian brothers. Again, rest in peace to Pat Musitano. And we did the Musitano crime family the other day. Let's do the Rizzuto crime family today, right? Gentlemen, you know the rules. Knock before entering, wipe your feet on the rug, and definitely blow some smoke in the atmosphere. I still got a little bit of my Gorilla Glue. Salute to my boy James and the GGC crew. It's my first lieutenant right there of the GGC crew, my boy James. I'm not going to say his last name. Don't worry about it, but he knows who I'm talking to. Salute to my GGC crew. Let's get right into it. Tuesday afternoon business. The Rizzuto crime family is an organized crime family based in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, whose criminal activities cover most of southern Quebec and Ontario. The FBI considers them to be connected to the Bonanno crime family, but Canadian law enforcement considers them to be separate. They are sometimes referred to as the Sixth Family. Sicilian immigrant from Cattolica Ercole, Niccolo Rizzuto established the organization in the 1970s as part of the Sicilian faction of the Montreal Controni crime family. An internal war broke out by the late 1970s, which resulted in the death of acting captain Paolo Violi and his brothers, allowing the Rizzutos to overtake the family. Rizzuto Son Vito Rizzuto was indicted in 2004 and imprisoned from 2007 until 2012 for murders in which he participated in 1981, causing a power struggle among criminals in Montreal. During Vito's imprisonment, his son Nicolo Jr. was killed in 2009 and Nicolo Sr. was shot by a sniper in his home in 2010. Upon Vito's release, several people were killed in what was suspected to be retaliation for the murder of his family. Vito died of natural causes in 2013, and the head of the mafia in Montreal is now assumed to be his son Leonardo. Niccolo Rizzuto married Libertina Mano during the early 1940s, the daughter of Sicilian mafia leader Antonio Mano. Rizzuto immigrated from Sicily with his family to Montreal in 1954. In the 1970s, Rizzuto was an underling in the Sicilian faction led by Luigi Greco until his death in 1972 of the Calabrian Controni crime family. As tension then grew into a power struggle between the Calabrian and Sicilian factions of the family, a mob war began in 1973. In 1977, Rizzuto and Controni Capodicino Paolo Violi met face-to-face in the home of Montreal resident for a last-ditch effort to resolve their differences, according to a police report. But the peace talks failed, and most of the Rizzuto family fled to Venezuela. This led to a violent mafia war in Montreal, which resulted in the deaths of Violi and his brothers, along with others, spanning the mid-1970s to the early 1980s until the war ceased. Antonio Mano's son, Dominico, was also instrumental in Violi's murder. He received a 7-year sentence after pleading guilty to conspiring to kill Violi. Rizzuto confidant, Agostino Contreras, received a 5-year sentence in relation to Violi's murder. By the mid-1980s, the Rizzuto crime family emerged as Montreal's prominent crime family after the Turf War. Niccolo's son, Vito, later followed him into the mafia. He kept a low profile, working only with trusted people close to the family. They worked with the Contreras Coruna Mafia clan, Colombian and Venezuelan drug cartels, and the Bonanno crime family in New York City. Rizzuto was the mediator who oversaw the peace amongst the Hell Angels, the Mafia, the street gangs, Colombian cartels, and the Irish mobs such as the West End Gang. Canadian Mafia journalists dubbed the Rizzuto clan the Sixth Family to describe them on an equal footing with the 5 families of Cosa Nostra in New York, according to the book The Sixth Family. By 2003, the Rizzuto organization was variously listed in FBI and DEA files as merely the Canadian crew of the Bonanno family or the Montreal faction of the Bonannos. The reality is far different. The territory under its control is huge. More than 1 million square miles of Quebec and Ontario directly fall under its influence, an area larger than 1/4 the size of the entire United States. It includes major cities, the busiest border crossings between the U.S. and Canada, and many mature mafia clans that are, by and large, cooperating under the Sixth Family's banner. Where American mafia bosses control criminal activity in portions of a city or a New York borough, or the criminal activity in an industrial or commercial sector, such as construction or New York's garment district, the Sixth Family was an enterprise with a true global reach. The Sixth Family had outpaced any crew in the Bonanno family and, indeed, man for man, dollar for dollar, had eclipsed the family as a whole. The nucleus of the Montreal-based Sicilian Mafia comprises hundreds of soldiers and associates, says a Canadian police report drafted in 2004. Those who merely do business with the Sixth Family or work with them in short-term ventures are not included in this. Neither, generally, are the businessmen who do mostly non-criminal favors for the organization. After consolidation of their power in the 1990s, the Rizzutos became overexposed and overextended. Vito Rizzuto was arrested on January 20, 2004 in Montreal for his involvement in the May 5, 1981 gangland killings of 3 Bonanno crime family captains, Alphonse Indelicato, Philip Giacconi, and Dominique Trinchera, and was sentenced to a 10-year prison sentence on May 4, 2007. Lorenzo Giordano, a loyalist to Francesco Accardi, shoots convicted heroin dealer Javal Mohammed Novarian in the groin on April 18, 2005. In 2005, a total of 1,300 kilograms of cocaine, co-organized by Rizzuto family confidant Francesco Del Balso and West End gang member Richard Griffin, was intercepted in Boucherville, Quebec by police. After Griffin invested $1.5 million in the purchase and transportation of the cocaine, he demanded $350,000 from the Rizzutos for not taking preventative measures in transporting the drugs. After arguments about the debts, Griffin was riddled with gunfire outside his home in Notre Dame de Grace on July 12, 2006. On August 30th of 2006, 35-year-old Dominique O'Malley, a Rizzuto family enforcer and protege of Francesco De Balso, was murdered in a drive-by shooting as he waited in a traffic light in his Cadillac car in downtown Montreal. On November 22, 2006, the senior leadership of the criminal organization was hit by the largest RCMP operation in Canadian history, named Project Colisée, lasting 4 years. The RCMP had fitted the Rizzuto's headquarters, the Consenza Social Club, with microphones and cameras to amass sufficient evidence against the organization. Among the 90 people arrested were Nicola Rizzuto, Paolo Renda, Vito Rizzuto's brother-in-law, Rocco Solicito, Francesco Accardi, Lorenzo Giordano, Francesco De Balso. Somewhere between September 7 and September 12, 2007, 56-year-old Francesco Frank Velenosi, an associate of Capo Francesco Accardi, was found stabbed to death in the trunk of his Volvo car. On January 15 of 2008, Constantine Big Gus Elvizios, an associate of Gaetano Guy Penepinto, before his murder in October of 2000, was shot and killed outside a halfway house in Brampton, Ontario. He was serving 3 years imprisonment since February 2007 in his role in a drug conspiracy. He was accused of stealing $600,000 from the Rizzuto family, following Penepinto's murder. A 2001 attempted hit was foiled after Juan Joe Bravo Fernandez gave a gun and ammunition to an undercover police agent. Alevizos, 6'6" and weighing over 460 pounds, was shot in the back and abdomen and was pronounced dead at a nearby hospital. On December 4, 2008, 40-year-old Rizzuto family soldier Mario Skinny Marabella was kidnapped at a gas station on Highway 440 in Laval, Quebec. He was forced into a minivan and his car was later found in flames in Montreal. Marabella had served convictions for loan sharking, breaking probation, and extortion. In 1992, he and Giuseppe DeVito robbed a liquor truck. He pled guilty to possessing stolen goods and received a 90-day sentence. On January 16, 2009, 37-year-old Sam Fasulo was shot and killed, a convicted heroin and crack cocaine dealer who had close ties to Francesco Accardi. In 2004, he was sentenced to 4 years in prison for his role in a drug trafficking ring that operated out of Italian cafes in St. Leonard and St. Michael. Fasulo was shot several times as he drove his SUV in North Montreal and died in a hospital 2 days later from his wounds. On August 21, 2009, family associate Federico Del Peccio was killed behind La Cantina restaurant in Ahuntsic. On December 28, 2009, Nick Rizzuto Jr., son of Vito Rizzuto, was shot and killed near his car in Notre Dame de Grace, a borough in Montreal. The killing of Nick Jr., the face of the organization on the street, illustrated the power vacuum within the upper rank of Montreal organized crime. Since the slaying of Vito Rizzuto's son, the organization suffered other major setbacks. 70-year-old Paolo Renda, the consigliere of the Rizzuto crime family, disappeared on May 20, 2010. A month later, 66-year-old Agostino Contreras, the presumed acting boss who believed to have taken control of the family, was killed together with his bodyguard, 44-year-old Liborio Schiaschia, on June 30th of 2010. After 3 decades of relative stability, the face of the city's mafia hierarchy was subject to a major management shuffle. 36-year-old Ennio Bruni, former Rizzuto family enforcer and bodyguard to Francesco Del Balso, was shot and killed around 3:15 a.m. outside Café Belle Rose in Viemont, Quebec, on September 29, 2010. Bruni previously managed to escape an assassination attempt on his life on November 24, 2009, after he was shot 3 times in the shoulder and once in the back shortly after his departure from a restaurant in Laval, Quebec. On November 10th of 2010, Nicola Rizzuto was killed at his residence in the Cartierville borough of Montreal when a single bullet from a sniper rifle punched through double panel glass of the rear patio doors of his mansion. He was 86. His death is believed to be the final blow against the Rizzuto crime family. Calabrese mobsters, led by the old Controni family, were among the suspects of the murders of Rizzuto crime family members. The Rizzutos have dominated organized crime activities in Montreal since its inception, and now their weakened organization is being challenged for control of rackets in the area, most notably the drug trade. An associate of Capo Francesco Accardi and Francesco Del Balso, 44-year-old Antonio Di Salvo, is shot and killed at his home in Quebec on January 31, 2011. On October 24, 2011, Rizzuto crime family associate turned rival 40-year-old Lorenzo Lavi Lopresti, the son of Joe Lopresti, who was gunned down in April of 1992, was shot and killed on his ground floor balcony and pronounced dead at the scene. His murder was confirmed as the 31st homicide in Montreal in 2011. Salvatore Montagna, the acting boss of the Bonanno family until his deportation to Canada in 2009, was believed to be attempting to reorganize both families under his control. However, he was murdered in November of 2011. On March 1st of 2012, 38-year-old Giuseppe Joe Closer Colapelli was shot inside his parked SUV in North Montreal and later pronounced dead upon arrival in the hospital. It is believed that Colapelli worked for Giuseppe De Vito, a former Rizzuto family lieutenant who was ousted after attempting to overthrow the Rizzuto family in around 2009-2010. Colapelli allegedly served as a double agent for Reynald Desjardins and was spying on Salvatore Montagna by mid-2011. A disgracia. On May 4, 2012, 53-year-old Giuseppe Joe Renda is kidnapped and never seen alive again. It is noted that Renda met with Antonio Pietranto and Montagna 2 days before the failed assassination attempt on Reynald Desjardins on September 16 of 2011. Renda allegedly gave Montagna his full support in taking control of the Italian Montreal underworld. Walter Gutierrez, a money launderer for the Rizzuto family, was shot to death multiple times in West Montreal on July 16, 2012. Vito Rizzuto was released from prison on October 5, 2012. On November 5, 2012, Rizzuto family confidant turned rival 70-year-old Giuseppe Smiling Joe DiMarlo is executed by a hitman waiting outside his home in Blainville, Quebec. DiMarlo allegedly attended the election of Philip Rastelli as the Bonanno family boss in 1973 with Desjardins and Paolo Violi. It is also noted that he was the brother-in-law of Reynald Desjardins. On December 8th of 2012, Rizzuto family lieutenant 50-year-old Emilio Cordileone is gunned down in a Huntsic, Quebec, near his parked SUV. His murder was verified as Montreal's 33rd homicide in 2012. Cordileone's murder was possibly the result of his association with Giuseppe De Vito and the Controni crime family. On May 8th of 2013, 57-year-old Juan Joe Bravo Fernandez and his associate 36-year-old Fernando Pimentel, considered neutral in the Rizzuto War, were both found murdered in a garbage dump in Casteldaccia, Palermo. His body was burnt and riddled with over 30 bullets. His associate allegedly arrived in Sicily in March. Law enforcement considered the hit to be ordered by Vito Rizzuto. Bravo was deported from Canada and Sicily in 2012. Giuseppe Carbone, Pietro, and Salvatore Scaduto were convicted in the April 9th murder. Carbone led the police to the whereabouts in May. He became a cooperating witness and sentenced to 16 years in prison. A disgracia. On July 8th of 2013, 46-year-old Giuseppe De Vito, ally of Reynald Desjardins, was fatally poisoned in his cell at Donnacona Federal Penitentiary. De Vito was targeted by law enforcement in 2006 as part of Operation Coliseum. He served a 15-year prison sentence for conspiracy to import cocaine and gangsterism charges following his conviction in 2010. His murder is believed to be orchestrated by Vito Rizzuto. On January 12, 2013, 41-year-old Salvatore Calauti was shot in the head and killed while driving his BMW car in Vaughan, Ontario. His associate, 35-year-old Jimmy Tusk, was shot in the chest and stomach. The killing of Calauti is believed to be revenge for the murder of Vito Rizzuto associate Gaetano Panepinto in October of 2000 and Nicolo Rizzuto Sr. in November of 2010. It is noted he also had ties to 'Ndrangheta organizations in Canada. On November 10, 2013, 67-year-old Moreno the Turkey Gallo, a once influential member of the crime family, was killed by a gunman inside an Italian restaurant in the Mexican city of Acapulco. He had lived in Canada throughout the 1950s, but was deported in January of 2013, after the Canadian government formally accused him of murder and organized crime charges. The murder of Gallo is believed to have marked the 3-year anniversary of the murder of Nicolo Rizzuto Sr. on November 10th of 2010. It is suspected Gallo was killed as a consequence of aligning with Reynald Desjardins and attempting to overthrow the Rizzuto family around 2009 and 2010. The events following the death of Vito. 5 days before the death of Rizzuto on December 8th of 2013, 54-year-old Roger Valquette Jr., a loan shark and Desjardins ally who also had ties to Joe DiMallo, is gunned down in the parking lot of a restaurant in Laval. Vito Rizzuto dies of natural causes on December 23, 2013. After his release from prison, Rizzuto had been on a revenge campaign, which the Rizzuto crime family continued after his death. Several members and associates of the Controni family were murdered as a result. On August 1st of 2014, 46-year-old Ducarme Joseph, leader of the Haitian-based street gang the 67th, was shot multiple times in the upper body in the streets of St. Michael, Quebec, and was pronounced dead when the paramedics arrived. Sources claim his murder was retribution for his involvement in the murder of Nick Rizzuto Jr. in December of 2009, the son of Vito Rizzuto. The 67th gang formed in the St. Michael district of Montreal, Quebec, Canada in the late 1980s and are associated with the Crips gang. Police believe Joseph drove the getaway car in the Rizzuto murder. It is alleged the Rizzuto family offered $200,000 for the death of Joseph. He was arrested on March 19 on charges of assault and the possession of a firearm silencer, and he was sentenced to 10 months in April of 2010. In November 15, Vito Rizzuto's son, Leonardo Rizzuto, along with Rocco Solicito's son, Stefano Solicito, believed to be the heads of the mafia in Montreal, were arrested along with more than 40 other people and were charged with taking part in a conspiracy to traffic drugs between January 2013 and November 16, 2015. They were also charged with committing a crime for the benefit of, at the direction of, or in association with a criminal organization. As part of the same operation, the police charged Maurice Boucher with ordering the failed assassination plot on Desjardins from his prison cell. On March 1, 2016, highly respected Rizzuto lieutenant and confidant whom expressed wishes to become the next boss of the Rizzuto family, 52-year-old Lorenzo Giordano, was shot to death in a Quebec parking lot. On May 27, 2016, 67-year-old Rocco Solicito was shot to death in Laval, Quebec, while driving a white BMW SUV. Solicito was an underboss of the family, and the death was believed to be part of a dismantling of the older generation of the family. On June 2, 2016, semi-retired Rizzuto family member, 72-year-old Angelo D'Onofrio, was shot several times at close range inside of Cafe Sinatra by a young male. On October 15 of 2016, 65-year-old Vincenzo Spagnolo, considered formerly as a mediator, messenger, and advisor to Vito Rizzuto, was shot multiple times at his home in Vimont, Quebec, and pronounced dead. Spagnolo was close to the Sicilian faction of the family following Rizzuto's death in 2013. In December of 2016, Reynald Desjardins received a 14-year prison sentence, including time served for connection to the murder of Salvatore Montagna in November of 2011. On January 13, 2017, 39-year-old Anastasios Leventis, a former computer technician and enforcer associated with the Rizzuto crime family, was shot to death in Toronto. 2 firearms were recovered close to the scene of the homicide. He had pled guilty to conspiracy charges and marijuana smuggling in 2009 as part of Project Cancun and was sentenced to 6 months in prison. A court document issued in 2009 considered Leventis the main marijuana supplier in the operation. On August 17, 2017, 45-year-old Antonio de Blasio, a Rizzuto family soldier and Solocito crew member, is gunned down outside his son's football practice in St. Leonard, Quebec. He was shot several times in the upper body. De Blasio's murder was confirmed as Montreal's 15th homicide in 2017. Jacques Desjardins, brother of Reynald Desjardins, disappeared sometime between November 2nd and November 3rd of 2017. He is presumed dead. On February 3rd of 2018, 33-year-old Daniel Ranieri was found in a ditch in Cancun, Mexico. He was shot twice in the back of the head. Law enforcement alleged Ranieri took over the Toronto crew on behalf of the Rizzuto crime family following the April 2013 murder of Joe Bravo. Ranieri fled to Mexico in 2015 following an indictment of extortion charges issued by the York Regional Police. He previously served 3 prison stints for robbery, assault, bookmaking, and firearm offenses. On February 19 of 2018, Leonardo Rizzuto and Stefano Solocito were released from prison since their November 2015 arrest and acquitted of charges of gangsterism and conspiracy to traffic cocaine. The wiretap evidence that was gathered by a joint police task force in 2015 was excluded as a violation of the constitutional right to solicitor-client privilege. I think that was the story when they put bugs up in the lawyer's office, right? They were desperate. A 2019 CBS News report later quoted a mafia expert as stating that Rizzuto's death paved the way for upheaval in the underworld. There's a power struggle left from the vacuum from Rizzuto. On October 17, 2019, Jonathan Massari, Dominic Scarfo, Guy Dion, and Marie Jose Vial were arrested and charged with planning and executing the murders of Solocito and Giordano. The power vacuum after Rizzuto's death was particularly apparent to mobsters from the areas of Hamilton, Ontario. Angelo Musitano, boss of the city's Musitano crime family, was killed in May of 2017. In April of 2019, his uncle Tony Musitano died of natural causes, leaving nephew Pasquale Pat Musitano the last of the dynasty. The death cost Pat protection in a world where he had a growing number of enemies, according to journalist Peter Edwards. Shortly after Angelo's murder, Pat Musitano's home was sprayed with bullets, and shortly after Tony's death in April 19, Pat was shot but survived. And as we know, in July of 2020, last Friday, Pat Musitano was killed. All right, so first of all, we're going to continue this Canada series with, the Lupino family and other families that are associated in this web, right? Mob Spotlight, you know how we do. Like, comment, share. Let me know what you guys are smoking on, and we will talk soon. Salute.